Hi, everyone. I'm Lizbeth Devlin from the Reborn Artist Studio,
And I'm Emily Elliott from Eborns.
and welcome to the first edition of Reborn Rap.
So, our very first episode is going to be a little bit different than future episodes. We don't have a guest today. Well, Elizabeth and I are guests today.
Yeah, we just want to talk a little bit about the podcast, give you a sneak peek of what's in store in the future, and just to also allow you guys a chance to get to know us a little bit.
So, Elizabeth, let's just jump right in. You had this amazing idea to start this podcast. Why don't you just kind of share why you wanted to start a podcast, how that idea came about?
Yeah, so I wanted to do a podcast for a while, like based on reborning, because I felt we were very much misrepresented. You know, if you watch a documentary about reborning, or if you go to YouTube and try and find out more about reborning, the one aspect that they always seem to focus on is the reborn mom who dresses up the doll, takes the doll to the store, or just takes it out for a walk in a stroller. And although that is definitely an aspect of reborning, it's not the entire picture. But the straw that broke the camel's back was a production company, actually a very large production company who do documentaries for Netflix, reached out to me because they had been assigned by Lifetime Television to do another documentary on reborns. So we had a lot of back and forth, and they were looking for the reborn mom, you know, kind of the similar thing that we always see. And I asked them, you know, what are you going to look at other aspects of reborning? Like these dolls are used for dementia patients. They're used for parents with infertility issues, even grieving parents. You know, I've like you have made a couple of memorial babies. And then I told them, and I'm also on the different side of reborning. I'm not a collector. I'm actually an artist, and I have a reborn business. But they weren't interested in that. They were more interested in doing the, you know, let's show everybody. I always think too, it's there, you know, it's for that shock content. Let's show everybody this person with a doll. And so that was it. I was done because I felt it's about time that we spoke about reborning instead of having people on the outside speaking about reborning, because we know what goes on behind it. We have some incredibly skilled sculptors, we have incredibly skilled artists, and we have a lot of women that are developing businesses in the reborn industry. And so I thought it was time for us to speak up and talk.
Yeah, I was really excited. I remember when we first met, we kind of got brought together by a mutual student, and I really wanted to do something together, but I just had no idea what. And when you told me about the podcast, you had said, "Oh, you could maybe be a guest co-host sometime or come on." And I was like, "Oh yeah, anything you want." And then it just really evolved. And I mean, I just think it's absolutely amazing. Like it has really snowballed. Like we have all this stuff planned that I did not even think would be a possibility.
Yeah, it's been really interesting because when we first started talking, and then we realized very quickly that we were both on the same page with so many different things. I mean, you have a tutorial, you do painting. I have my tutorial where I do the Rudy, the online rooting course. But then every time we would have an idea, we'd be like, oh my gosh, this is great. And I think if this started out as my baby, it definitely became our joint venture. And now, you know, it's our podcast. And it's just been, wow, it's been a pleasure working with you.
Oh, it's been a pleasure too. We are definitely like soul
I
sisters.
know. Finishing each other's sentences almost. It's
I know.
crazy.
And you know what else has been really amazing has been just the response from the community. I thought we would get like a couple kind of lesser known guests to come on,
Yeah.
and our guest lineup is insane.
Oh, it is. You know, and I would send someone a message and shyly say, I'm doing a podcast. Would you like to come on? And there everyone was like, that's a fantastic idea. And we've had, like you say, we've had some crazy big names that are supporting us in the podcast. And also we were invited to the Yophi doll show as well. And we're actually ambassadors for the Yophi doll show.
Yeah.
So we'll be filming on location when we go to Yophi. But you're right, the response has been absolutely overwhelming. I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, I think people are going to be really impressed and really interested to watch. I mean, we have like big prototype artists. We'll also have some newer artists. Like we want a full representation. We have
Yeah.
sculptors, dealers, other teachers, like pretty much we're going to have guests from every single aspect of the reborn community to come on and share their knowledge and experience. And
Yeah. And I think if you get to know these artists and sculptors on Facebook, you don't really get to know them. You might see a couple of their posts, but when we have them on the show, we'll have, people in the community send us questions and we can ask those questions and they can get to know the real artists and maybe the journey that it's taken for some of these sculptors and some of these incredible artists, even the prototype artists, kind of outlining how they became a prototype artist.
yeah, I'm really interested in that part with with the sculptors, like how they went from just sculpting to production. Like, I just feel like we
Yeah.
are going to have so much information that a lot of people are going to be interested in.
Yeah, and
And
a lot of things that we don't know about too, and we also have dealers coming on the show because I know that we purchase those kits and they arrive, but we don't really know everything that's gone on behind the scenes. So it will definitely, I think it'll be an education for everybody out there as well as for us too.
yeah, and I know you had mentioned the Yophi doll show. Um, I am just over the moon that we get to do that. We'll be like filming on location at Yophi for, is it 3 days or 4 days?
Yeah,
I can't remember, but we're doing all the classes. Like, we'll be filming everything.
yeah, we've been given the opportunity to go into each class and do a little bit of filming there. So for people that can't make the doll show, they get to see kind of what goes on behind the scenes, and maybe next time they're able to come and attend one of the classes that are done at the show. We'll also be interviewing guests as they arrive. We'll be interviewing vendors and just kind of videotaping what's going on and just having a little chit chat and conversation with some of their favorite vendors.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Speaking of fun, we have our giveaway too,
We
which we
do.
do
We
in
do.
honor of our first episode here.
That's right. So we have that giveaway coming up right towards the end of the show. We're going to announce the winner. And again, we've had an incredible response from that too. So I'm excited to
Yeah,
finally give something away to someone.
I know. I hope that that's something we can continue doing. I know it's something that we want to do is to do like regular giveaways that probably have to do with the guests that we have on and
Yeah,
stuff. So you guys can look forward to more of those.
yeah, absolutely. So we may not have one every podcast, but we'll definitely have one at least once a month.
We've been collaborating on a few things besides just this podcast.
We have actually. So we were able to collaborate on this. This is a card that went out with your McPherson's order or your Irresistible order. So big thank you to Brenda and to Esther for doing that for us. So one side we have the rooting tutorial that I teach, which is all online. And then on the other side, we have Emily's painting tutorial, which is done through YouTube. And this is absolutely an excellent tutorial if you haven't already taken a look at it. But so before you were teaching, you were just basically a reborn artist. I shouldn't say
Hmm.
basically, but you're a reborn
Yeah.
artist before. And you've been reborning a lot longer than me. And you have a very interesting background. So why don't we hear about how you got into reborning?
Well, I was a nurse for I guess many years. I graduated super early. And I worked in labor and delivery, and then I also worked in pediatrics. Those were absolutely my two favorite specialties. But I worked in hospital care, and maybe other people in the medical field know what that is like. It is very, very taxing. You're working like 6 to 7 days a week, 80-hour work
Wow.
weeks, basically. And I started just getting really, really burnt out. And there's nothing worse than a burnt out nurse. Like, if you're a nurse and you're feeling the burnout, get out.
All
Like,
right.
humanity will thank you. You should not still be nursing when you are burnt out. But so I knew I wanted to stop working as a nurse, and I was so sick of getting up and going to work. Like, I wanted to work from home and I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I was just randomly on YouTube one day and I saw this infomercial about reborning. It was the first time I had ever even heard the term reborns. But it basically said, no talent needed, no experience needed. You could, take this class, paint a reborn in 3 days, and you were going to earn about $8,000 a month.
Oh God,
And
I wish.
I know, common sense told me it was too good to be true, but it kind of put me on the little trajectory where I wanted to find out about reborns and see if it was something I could do. And I was able to find some other documentaries and stuff where I saw some like really poorly done reborns that were supposedly very expensive as well.
Wow.
Um, so I thought I'm going to give this a try. I want to do this as a business. I was super irresponsible. I quit my job and bought supplies before I even got my first reborn kit in the mail. I don't recommend that, by the way. For me, it worked out, but it's not a smart move. Um, but so I started doing it. I quickly learned that I could not paint a reborn in 3 days. I could not make $8,000 a month. But in about a month, I could paint a pretty terrible reborn and maybe sell it for $150. But along that, during that process, I fell in love with reborns, and it was definitely something that I wanted to keep doing. And it took a lot of time and work to, get good and
Yeah.
build it up.
Look how far you've come. So you've gone
I know.
from like, all that time taking to paint a doll to actually teaching now. And I'm a really big advocate for always learning. I really am. I think no matter what field you're in, and even in reborning. And so I did take your class. And the thing I really loved about your class was that it's not there's some sections that are for beginners, but there's also a great section, or actually a lot of the tutorials that you do cover that more advanced artist. And I kind of got to the point where I was feeling a little bit stagnant, and every time I watched something on YouTube, it was the same thing that I already knew. But then I found your course, and it definitely took me to that next level, which was incredible. But you have an incredible amount of videos under your course. Some of them are free and some of them are a paid tutorial. How many do you
Yeah.
have? Like, there's a lot.
I know. I have, I think, almost 300
Wow.
videos total. I have, multiple like full start series that are start to finish. And then I have mini tutorials that are free. And then I cover a lot of like, sales, marketing, business, like
That's
all of
right.
that stuff. And I loved what you just said about like being stagnant, because that really happened to me when I had been painting, I think for about 4 years or so. I kind of just peaked and I got to this point where I was okay. I was not great or anything. I was selling like mid-range babies, and that was fine. But I really wanted to do these like prototype quality babies. And no matter what I did, I couldn't get there. And I finally was able to get there. But that was really like my entire vision and focus for my teaching channel was, I wanted to take people that have been reborning for a while, that have kind of maxed out their
Right.
abilities, but they want to keep going further.
Right.
And like you said, I have stuff for beginners too, but my main focus is really like getting those experienced artists over the hump and taking their work to the next level.
Yeah, and I was at the point where my babies were good and they were selling really well, but I felt like it was almost like I don't know what I don't know. And then when I watched your video, I was like, oh gosh. I mean, even like, for example, creasing. I never thought I had an issue with creasing. And, every time I would see people that were struggling with creasing, I was like, oh, I've got that one down pat, so I'm good with that. And then I watched your tutorial and saw the way you creased and started doing it that way. And it made such a difference in my dolls. And that is just one tiny little aspect of your course. And that, yeah, it's definitely worth every single penny. And I'm enjoying
Thank
I'm
you.
enjoying using it. So
I credit a lot of that to my nursing background, because I've seen so many babies, and like, I mean, I'm not going to give away all my secrets, but that is what really changed the way that I paint, was actually kind of going into my memory, thinking of these thousands of babies I've seen, and building a reborn more like the way you would build a human body.
right.
Um, like if I hadn't started off in nursing, I don't think that I would be successful as an artist right now, or not as successful.
Right. Right. That's
And
great.
I really love I actually sat in on your class too, and I don't want to embarrass you, but I just have to say, like, your rooting is absolutely amazing. I love your rooting. I mean, obviously I sent little Iris to you. Like I think that
Yeah.
you are a great rooter.
Well,
And
thank you. Thank you. And when I first started putting the course together, it was, I don't, like I had a lot of people reach out to me saying, "Oh, you should teach, you should teach." And you never think that you're at a level where you can teach.
no.
And a very good friend of mine, Vanita Garlic, had said to me, people just want to learn what you know. So teach them that. And it was so simple. And I thought, oh, yeah, that's right. So when I started doing the tutorial, it was just, based on what I know. Um, but the response I've had from people taking the class who have been rooting for years, some of them are beginners, and to see them get to that level, some of them the first time around, I'm just so proud of them. I really am, and I've learned so much from them too. And there's nothing better than that kind of proud mother feeling you feel when your little children are
No.
succeeding.
I know it's so rewarding. And we have a lot of mutual students.
We do.
I've heard like nothing but great things. And my experience with your class was great too.
Yeah,
Like,
and I think it goes likewise too. I've had our mutual students, and I've seen students of mine recommend your course and not realizing that they were actually doing your tutorials. But
yeah.
yeah, just very very high level, so it's good.
Yeah, it is great. I really liked with your course because I'd been rooting for a long time, obviously, and my rooting was okay, but it's nothing that I'm proud of. Like, I'm real proud of my painting, and then my rooting's all right. And I really loved that you have stuff for beginners like I do, but you like really focus on really high quality rooting. And I really felt like I got several things out of there that I could implement like really easily that changed the look of my rooting like
Well,
really
that's good.
quickly.
Yeah, well, that's always good to hear, isn't it? It really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And
thank
you
you.
actually came from a medical background too, right?
I did a little bit different. I was on the clerical side, so I ran a plastic surgery center, and it, very much, often in the medical field, your hours are very long. Actually, I think nowadays that's happening in every industry, but it
Yeah.
was, pretty much I had my phone on me 24/7. So I would be answering calls at 5 in the morning till midnight. And it could be vendors, patients, doctors. And I mean, I love the job. I absolutely love the job. I was passionate about it. But you can't maintain that kind of lifestyle long term. Sooner or later, it's going to affect you. And it did. It affected me in a very bad way because I actually had a stroke. And I can't even believe I'm saying this now, but the day after having a stroke, I went back to work. And I think I was in some kind of fog from the stroke. And I was very lucky. I got the golden ticket. I didn't have any facial paralysis or any, paralysis on the left side or the right side. The one thing that I did have, though, is I did have aphasia. So I had some problems with speech. I had some problems with, I'd type an email and I didn't know what letter a word started with, like a basic letter, a basic word. Um, and the saddest thing about it was, as much as I had put into this job, I went to work that day after having the stroke, working for doctors who knew I'd had a stroke the day prior, and not a single doctor said to me, "You shouldn't be here. You need to go home."
That's just
And
shocking to me.
yeah, it's crazy. And in my head, it was like, I've got payroll to do, I've got budgets to do, and like I say, I think I was in some kind of stroke fog where I just wasn't thinking straight. And sadly, it made me realize that no matter how much I put into a job, I was just employee number blah, blah. And that had I ended up with paralysis on one side of my body, I wouldn't have been able to work anymore. And it made no impact to them. It made a bigger impact to me. I mean, I wouldn't be able to work anymore and they would just hire somebody else. So I decided that I needed to take care of myself, and I left the job. And one of the things that I happened to me was I was very ashamed of the fact that I had a stroke. And I had always been, on the ball. Let's do this, let's get that done. I did events, I did everything. And I lost all that. I felt like I lost myself. I felt that my value was gone basically. And I became, I don't know, I took this dive. And I took some time off work or out of the workforce, and I discovered Reborns. And I thought these are really interesting. So I did the same as you. I went out and I bought a ton of stuff and thought, hey, let's try these. And because I've always run businesses for other people, I came in with kind of like a business acumen, and I thought, I wonder if you could actually make money, painting these dolls. And, once I started painting them, I was absolutely hooked. And I thought, yeah, I've got to make a business out of this, because how could I compare this lifestyle with any other lifestyle I've had, in the past. And same as you, I started off slow. I mean, you have to be realistic about it. You're not going to paint a doll one day and, everybody's clamoring at your door for you to paint dolls. And the 8,000 a month is not going to happen. But because I have that business, head on me, I looked at it in ways to develop it as a business. And so I've implemented, the podcast now. I have my art dolls, I have the rooting class, and I also have clothing that I import from Spain. So
Which is absolutely
yeah,
amazing, by the way. I buy
I
it
do
all the
love it.
time and
You
it's
do.
phenomenal. Yeah, you
Yeah, I
do.
do love it. But I think the other thing that it gave me too, it gave me a good sense of self. It brought back that like value back into my life too. And I know that a lot of the time in the community, we don't always know people's backgrounds and why they actually get into reborning. But for me, it just gave me it brought me back to life again. And during COVID, a lot of us didn't have people to communicate with. And during that COVID period, which was actually when I started reborning, there was just a very strong sense of community. And I just love it. I love the community. I love painting. And look at the wonderful people I get to meet. Yeah.
I know. I think oftentimes, I mean, we know like sensationalism sells. So people focus on the negative aspects of the community, but it can just be a really supportive place. I
Yeah.
mean, I know for me, like, I don't think I would be where I'm at if I didn't have mentors like our next guest,
Yeah.
Brenda from McPherson's. Like, she has mentored me so much.
Oh, she is incredible. And you actually introduced me to Brenda because you've known Brenda for quite some time. And immediately when I spoke to her, I was just she is such an advocate for women in business. And I know a lot of
Oh,
people
yeah.
don't know that about her, but she's an
No.
incredible individual, very inspiring, very, very
Yeah,
inspiring.
she is. She really is. And she's one of like who we were talking about, their success is our success. Like she is like that too.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to interview her on the show because I feel like, her like background and story, a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah. And this is a great thing. It's going to having the guests on the show because you're going to get to see the side of individuals that we knew nothing about. I mean,
Yeah.
when you think about Brenda, she got into reborning long before any of us. And to have that
Yeah.
idea and to know that, oh, these are going to become successful. So I'm going to add this to my business. And it's kind of like, we were laughing about this the other day because I was wondering if she was somebody that bought Apple stock when it first started out.
I know, right?
And she would be a great person to get some stock tips from.
She's also going to announce some like
That's
special
right.
secret news
Yes,
on here
I
on for
know.
our episode.
And I'm bursting about that because I think there's such a need for whatever that I'm not going to talk about. We're going to leave it up to
Yes,
Brenda.
exactly.
So moving on from
It'll
that
be it'll
subject.
be great for the community though.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And we're going to be doing some other things too besides just having guests, which we will have guests, and then we're going to be doing our own topics that we talk about, like current events, that kind of stuff. we're also going to have, I'm really excited about this, our little mini Reborn Rap rave segment.
Yeah. So we have an artist coming up shortly, and she is our first artist in Reborn Rap Rave, so the RRR. And we're going to highlight an artist in the community, but it doesn't have to be somebody who's been around for years. We're looking at maybe a newer artist that we're like, oh, they've only been reborning for this amount of time. And so we have a special segment where we'll be putting artists into that segment and just highlighting them and, allowing them to get some more followers and basically allowing them to get some more views.
Yeah, and we'll give you guys more information at that time, like how you can nominate people to be highlighted, kind of show some of that camaraderie and support that we were talking about.
Yeah.
If there's an artist that you think is just great or, deserves a shout out at all or anything,
Yeah. And it also
you
goes
have the
beyond the
opportunity.
artistry as well, because we're looking for an upstanding member in the community. So if you're a new artist and you're phenomenal, but you're forever like picking on other people,
Yeah.
that's not, we don't want you on the show.
No
But
bullies.
yeah, exactly. So no bullies at all. Yeah. But I think that would be great. And I know that when I first started out, any kind of recognition I got, no matter who it was from, I would be like, oh my gosh, look at this. And it really kind of, I don't know, it would put me on a high for days.
I know. Absolutely. I can't wait to do that portion.
Yeah.
So I guess we're like getting to the end of our episode here. That wasn't so bad.
No, when the equipment works, it's amazing, isn't it? Just like it goes
Yeah.
nice and smooth.
Well, I don't know about you, but I was really nervous about being in front of the camera. Like I've only been in front of the camera, not just my hands, maybe like 5 or 6 times, and I was kind of freaking out about it.
Well, and this is my first time in front of the camera, and I'm not as young as you. I don't have that nice, tight, young skin, so it's been
Oh my gosh.
it's been nerve wracking. It really has. It's been nerve wracking, and we talk about tearing our dolls apart when we paint them. Talk about tearing my
Oh
face
yeah.
apart when I see it on video, and all those filters we see on YouTube. I don't know where they are, so can somebody please let me know how to get them?
I know, exactly, right?
Yeah, but it's been so much fun. It really is. And I'm really looking forward to our future podcast because even if nobody watches them, we're having a blast.
Yeah, we are. I think people are going to watch though.
I hope
And
so.
yeah, I can't wait to see you guys on our next episode with
Yeah.
Brenda.
Yep. And do reach out to us if you have any questions for Brenda or if you have any comments about the show or for something that you would like us to cover. This is not just Emily and I's podcast, it's the community's podcast.
Absolutely. And stay tuned after this. We are going to announce the giveaway winner.
Yep, absolutely. So that's it.
Yep. All right.
Let's do it, girl. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.